We're ready to go whenever.
Yep, we're recording.
Okay, it's, I don't know, I don't have the agenda in front of me because we don't do that anymore. Monday, August 21st, 7:15, we'll call to order the Personnel and Finance Committee meeting. We'll start with introductions.
Alderman at Large Kevin Studick.
Finance Director Connie Hillman.
City Administrator Jennifer Bergman.
James Gravick, Community Development Director.
Chris Schubert, HR Director.
And Dave Johnson, Chair of the committee. We have 4 items, the first of which is to approve a conditional job offer. Chris?
So we have a new finance manager position that was created during our recent Public Utilities Department reorganization. Staff offered the position to Daniel Locke. During the job offer negotiation process, he requested step 5 of our finance manager wage grid. In reviewing his qualifications, he does meet that criteria for that step 5 placement. However, per council guidance, anything initial step placement over step 4 needs to go to council for approval. So at this time, staff is asking to approve a conditional job offer for Mr. Locke, and that he be placed at step 5, which is $47.54 per hour. And just a side note, tentative start date of October 30th.
I so move.
Spooky. We have a motion, and I'll second. And I approve the motion. I've met with Chris and Todd about this a couple times, and he's coming from the private sector, taking a pay cut, and he's worked at the city on a number of things, so he's a real high-quality candidate, I believe.
Good.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up, we're going to consider an employee manual update regarding reimbursement for the CDL training and testing.
In February of 2022, a new federal law took effect that requires anyone seeking a new or upgrades their commercial driver's license to be trained by a certified trainer. Right now, that cost is going somewhere between $4,000 to $6,000, and the closest locations are either Hinckley or Wadena, from what we've been able to find out. This law affects several of our positions, including snowplow drivers, line workers, park maintenance, and public utilities staff. We currently have 2 new employees that need this training. When we've been trying to hire CDL drivers, it is very challenging to get someone that already has a CDL to come here. So, and whether it's us or the private sector, obtaining CDL drivers is very hard. These 2 people, we are suggesting, realizing the city's cost in that we approve an employee policy manual amendment that would help the city recover its expense if a new employee would leave within 3 years of obtaining their CDL. That policy timeframe also matches our tuition reimbursement policy. So therefore, staff is recommending approval of the employee policy manual amendment.
I so move.
Second, how is it we are going to recoup this $4,000 to $6,000?
So $4,000 to $6,000, there is a schedule in the back or on the policy. So if they leave within 1 year after receiving the disbursement for the training, they would have to reimburse us 100%. From 1 year to 2 years, it would be 66%. From 2 years to 3 years, it's 33%. Or in 3 years or longer, there's no reimbursement. So we will have to discuss this with a new hire when they are hired and they don't have a CDL, so they're aware of it. Have them sign something, or have also putting it in union contract language, because it is a term and condition of employment. With that said, if they don't agree to it and we do it, we probably would have to take them to small claims court or something like that.
Say they agree to this and initial it. How do we recoup our money?
Try to do it within the last couple paychecks. Try to, get some kind of reimbursement from them. Like I said, the other option is small claims court, especially if they have initialed it.
So this is just kind of a best of intention.
I don't want to say that out loud.
All future CDL drivers, this is as strong as oak. Don't mess with it.
We are doing our best to
Okay.
try to look over for the city's interest.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Next up, let's also consider an update to the city's non-DOT drug, alcohol, and cannabis policy.
With the recent legalization of marijuana for recreational use, we need to update our drug and alcohol testing policy for non-commercial drivers, which is our non-DOT policy. We have followed the League of Minnesota Cities template for that policy, and it is attached in your packet. Also include the red line version so that you can see the changes that we made to our current policy. Staff is recommending to approve the updated drug and alcohol testing policy for non-commercial drivers.
I so move.
I'll second. So we're basically just telling people not to smoke weed at work.
Can't smoke weed at work or be impaired.
Okay, so that would apply to gummies and even things that,
Correct.
yeah. It's tougher to tell if they're using. All right, any questions, Kevin? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Next up, let's consider yet another thing. Consider applying double fees to after-the-fact zoning and subdivision processes and permits.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Currently, right now, the building department, for a building permit would require a double fee if somebody were to construct something, and there was no permit for it. Right now, for zoning fees, however, it usually comes up with conditional use, interim use, or variance. There is no, I guess, penalty for doing something without contacting the city. Staff has looked at it, other municipalities do charge double fees, not all municipalities, however. So it is staff's recommendation for P&F to consider double fees for zoning permits. Typically, you'll run into about maybe 2 or 3 per year.
Question before the motion.
Yeah.
Can we find people who violate, like the short-term rental problems we've been dealing with?
Yep, so staff has kind of looked at what's been done in previous years, kind of within the past 5 years. Typically, letters are sent out trying to get people to comply. We've recently gone to essentially get your application in within 10 days, and if they do not, we would then institute a $100, $200, $300 fine. So that's an
Under
option.
320.
Yeah,
Section 320.
yeah,
Okay.
so we essentially, because that applies to zoning offenses as well. So that is something we will be doing going forward as well, because that's something we're able to do. But this would be for, after the fact, for mainly variances, conditional uses, and interim uses as, plats or any others, subdivisions have to really be approved by the city before it could ever go to the county, so.
So you're saying we only have 2 or 3 offenses a year?
Yeah, usually it's about 2 or 3 offenses.
So in the course of a year, how many permits do we usually issue?
There's probably 30, maybe 30 zoning permits that are issued and variances. And then out of those, you have about 2 to 3 that are probably after the fact ones.
Okay, so it's not a really high.
Not a real high number, typically it's people that haven't checked with, a lot of people do call our office and, wondering, what's a permitted use in this district, is there a conditional use required? And then you get the people that, just don't know or aren't aware of city zoning ordinances.
Okay.
But
I would make a motion to follow the staff recommendation.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thanks, James. Connie, quick question. Do these short-term rentals, now that we have a handful permanent, are they remitting their lodging tax?
They're supposed to be.
I didn't ask what they're supposed to be.
I don't know that question, to be honest with you. It's kind of a self-report because we don't always know if they're being rented out, but they do get the information when they apply for the permit, is my.
That's part of the
So
information you hand out?
Yeah, so as part of our information we hand out, and we have been putting it as a condition in the last 2, that essentially they're not getting their permit until they submit that.
Mhm.
I think the only 2 that we have right now are ones that I believe have brought it to the city. So we currently only have 2 short-term rentals in the city. There certainly are other ones that are operating, and staff is recommending putting that as a condition for the interim use permit.
So they get the information to pay the lodging tax when they get there.
Yeah, so could we or should we make a condition that they file their lodging tax report with the city monthly, quarterly, whatever, even if it's not rented out, so long as you hold this permit?
They're supposed to report just like our motor vehicle tax, even if it's a 0 report, they still have to print it, or they still have to file it.
So
I'll check with.
can we make a contingent, we pull your permit if you're not following
Yeah, we could put
state and
that,
local law?
as a condition on
I
there.
think we should make that
That
a
would
standard operating procedure.
strict it up a little bit.
I think that would be a good idea, and just do the same thing with, well, I know there's not a permit for, is there a permit for used cars salesman, just used cars?
That's a
Conditional use is required for that as well.
So I mean, those, because we've had some where we call and call to get the information, and
Yeah.
we don't always get the information on a timely
Is this where the
basis.
city council meeting is?
We'll be
Up the
upstairs.
steps, 2 flights.
So there is a condition right now that staff's recommended for that one, so you guys could always add on to it,
Mhm.
that condition to.
Yeah, if you
require
could just make it a
monthly
note to
reporting.
make it the community development department's standard recommended conditions that
Yeah,
you
this
file
time-
your
this time it's
monthly,
double.
because it is state law that they have to.
Yeah.
Just because they're not doing it doesn't mean they don't
Yeah,
have
and
to.
actually tying to a condition then could allow us to revoke it then if they're not doing it.
Yeah.
I would really like that. We can check with Pam on
But that
how
takes
often we
a
get
little
those.
Yeah, I like that. All right, good information, thank you. We're adjourned.
Second.